Egyptian civilization. Learning about the Egyptian civilization. As we have read in the previous chapter, the Harappan civilization, ancient civilizations grew along river banks. Location. The Egyptian civilization grew along the banks of the river Nile. The Nile is the longest river in the world. It provides water for drinking purposes, irrigation of crops and transportation. Every year, the soil would flood, leaving a strip of rich dark soil on the banks of the river, making the region extremely fertile. Giza, Thebes, Abu Simbel, and the Valley of Kings were the important cities and places situated on the banks of the Nile. Government. The rulers of ancient Egypt were known as pharaohs. The pharaoh was the most important and powerful person in the country. He owned all the land. The people worshipped him as God. He had an army of professional soldiers and led them into the battle. Some of the pharaohs were Khufu, Ramesses II, and Tutankhamun. Life of the people. Most of the people were farmers or worked on the farms. They were also traders, potterers, carpenters, jewelers, and shoemakers who specialized in their craft. Some people were also writers or scribes who kept all the written records. They wore clothes made from cotton or linen to keep themselves cool. Their footwear was made from papyrus and reeds. Men and women wore eye makeup. They were fond of jewelry and masks. Egyptian houses were made from mud bricks dried in the sun. The walls were covered with thick plaster to keep themselves cool. Rich people lived in big houses like villas, while the poorer families stayed in single rooms. Fruits and vegetables, along with grain and cotton, grew along the banks on the river Nile. There was a market where people bought pots, pans, and items of everyday use. Instead of paying money, they exchanged goods to buy other goods. This was known as the barter system. Transport and trade. The main mode of transportation was by boat along the river Nile. The earliest boats were made from papyrus and reeds. Gradually, these were replaced by wooden boats. Trading and warship had a single mast and used oars. They traded cattle, gold, and papyrus for other goods from different places. Religion. The ancient Egyptians worshipped more than 1,000 gods and goddesses. Their most important god was Ra, the sun god. The other important gods were Horus, the god of the sky, Osiris and Iris were in charge of the underworld, and Anubis, the jackal-headed god who watched over the dead. Buildings. The Egyptians were great builders. They built magnificent palaces, temples, and tombs. The famous temple at Abu Simbel is carved out of the sandstone and rock. The pharaohs were mummified and buried inside pyramids, which are huge triangular buildings. Mummification is a process where the body was covered with special oils and wrapped in a cloth. The body was then placed in a beautiful wooden or gold coffin. Food, clothes, jewelry, and furniture were also kept alongside the coffin. Egyptians believed that The dead traveled to the other world and would need these things on the way. The tombs and temples were decorated with wall paintings. The most famous pyramid is the one at Giza, which has a special god, the Great Sphinx. A stone statue that is half human and half lion is a special god. The word pharaoh means great house. Writing and other skills. The ancient Egyptians used a system of picture writing known as hieroglyphics. Each picture represented an object or a sound. Their alphabet consisted of these pictures. We have learned the details of Egyptian life, their kings, gods and goddesses, since their writing has been deciphered. The other skill of Egyptians was the invention of their own alphabet. They were the first to write on a kind of paper made from papyrus reeds. The Egyptians used their knowledge of stars to help build temples. They were skilled in mathematics and astronomy. The historians and archaeologists are still discovering new features about this amazing civilization. Hunters in reed boats with spears and ropes hunted hippos. It was a popular sport in Egypt. Summary: the Egyptian civilization flourished along the banks of the river Nile. Abu Simbel, Thebes, and Giza are amongst the important cities of the Egyptian civilization. The Egyptian king was known as the pharaoh. The Egyptian people knew the art of preserving dead bodies, which is known as mummification. They used a system of picture writing known as hieroglyphics. They built palaces, tombs, and temples. Their pyramids are famous all over the world. The Egyptians were the first ones to write on paper made from papyrus reeds. That is all in this lesson, students. Learning is fun.